Have you ever seen a fortress fall, not from outside attack, but because someone opened the gates from within? Words can do the same. Every time we speak carelessly, we give others the blueprint to our mind, our fears, our flaws. In the name of honesty or connection, we often reveal more than we should, forgetting that silence is not a weakness, but a form of strength. The Stoics knew this well. Marcus Aurelius wrote not to impress others, but to train himself. Epictetus warned that we should guard our thoughts like treasures, not display them like decorations. And Seneca reminded us that the less you explain yourself, the more others respect your presence. There's a kind of wisdom in knowing what not to say, even among friends. Because once spoken, words can't be taken back. And sometimes they cost more than we realize. In this episode, we'll explore 10 things a Stoic never says, not out of fear, but out of discipline. These aren't just rules of speech. They are principles for preserving dignity, influence, and inner peace in a noisy world. Stay with me. What you choose not to say might become your greatest source of strength. 1. Money. Let your wealth speak in silence. Seneca once wrote, "A wise man is content with his lot, whatever it may be, without wishing for what he has not." There's a story of a quiet man named Elias who ran a small shoe repair shop for over 40 years. People assumed he lived humbly because he had little. He never spoke of his finances, no displays, no complaints. But when the local community center was at risk of closing, Elias donated enough to keep it open for another decade, anonymously. Only after his passing did the truth emerge. He had quietly built a fortune, but never once let it define him. This is the Stoic spirit. Money changes perception. When people learn you have it, their view of you shifts. You may stop being seen as a friend and start being seen as a provider. Expectations creep in, favors turn into assumptions, and generosity, when no longer freely chosen, becomes a silent burden. On the other hand, revealing financial struggles often invites judgment or pity. In a world that mistakes wealth for wisdom, people forget that hardship doesn't mean failure, it means you're still in motion. The Stoics remind us that true wealth isn't found in what we accumulate, but in what we can live without. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily, "Very little is needed to live a happy life." When you strip away the noise of status and the comparisons of society, what remains is clarity. By keeping your financial life private, you reclaim ownership of your identity. You live on your own terms, not under the shadow of someone else's expectations. You protect your peace, because when your money is unknown, so is your vulnerability to judgment, jealousy, or dependence. Whether you're quietly building or have already built, let your discipline, not your digits, speak for you. And if you're rebuilding, let your silence be a sign of inner strength, not shame. In the end, true prosperity doesn't boast. It doesn't beg to be noticed. It simply is. Let your wealth whisper. Let your freedom roar. 2. Family secrets. Protect the quiet foundation. Seneca once observed, "What's done to the family table should never be shouted in the marketplace." There's a story of two sisters, Mara and Elise, who had a falling out after their father passed away. Emotions ran high over an inheritance dispute, and Mara, in frustration, shared every detail of the argument with her co-workers and friends. Elise, however, remained silent. She didn't defend herself, didn't retaliate, and said nothing beyond their home. Months later, when the pain had cooled, the two reconciled, but Mara's words had already done their damage. Strangers now carried judgments about Elise that would never fully fade. That's the cost of speaking too freely about private wounds. Every family has conflict. There are moments of misunderstanding, pride, hurt, and even betrayal. But Stoicism teaches us to be guardians of our household's dignity. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, "Let your actions be done in silence, your judgment of others kept to yourself." Sharing family tensions with the outside world may feel momentarily relieving, but often it only magnifies the pain and reduces the chance for true resolution. When you make private matters public, you give people permission to interfere, people who don't know the full history, the context, or the emotional weight behind each decision. Suddenly, what could have been healed quietly becomes a drama with too many voices and no clarity. Keeping family struggles private doesn't mean you suppress or ignore them. It means you handle them with integrity. You face issues directly with those involved. You give your loved ones the chance to repair trust in the shelter of privacy, not under the judgment of outsiders. Because once you share a wound, it doesn't just belong to you anymore, it belongs to everyone who hears it. And not all of them will handle it with care. In a culture that thrives on telling all, restraint is a form of love. Honor your family by guarding its story. Let the difficult conversations happen, but let them happen within the walls of trust. What you protect in silence may one day become the ground where reconciliation can grow. 3. Regrets. Carry the lesson, not the weight. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Don't let your reflection on the whole of your life crush you. Don't fill your mind with all the bad things that might still happen. Stay focused on the present situation. There's a quiet man who tends a community garden every morning. Nobody knows his full story, but some say he was once a successful businessman who lost everything in a reckless decision. He never speaks about it, not out of shame, but because he's too busy planting something new. His past doesn't define him. His discipline now does. That's the difference between living with regret and living from it. We all carry moments we wish we could redo, a conversation we avoided, a decision made in fear, an opportunity we ignored. But retelling our regrets over and over doesn't set us free. It often traps us in the story, as if our mistakes are the most interesting thing about us. Worse, when we share those regrets too publicly, they stop being lessons and start being labels. Some will see only the error, not the evolution. Stoicism doesn't ask us to forget the past. It asks us to use it. Epictetus reminds us that every difficulty carries with it the seed of transformation. Regret, when held with quiet discipline, becomes that seed. We don't need to bleed in front of everyone to prove we've grown. We prove it by how we live now, how we carry ourselves with more patience, more clarity, more humility. There's power in silent transformation. You don't need to explain to the world who you used to be. You just need to embody who you are now. Let your presence speak for your growth. Let your stillness reveal your strength. Some stories aren't meant to be retold. They're meant to be redeemed through action. So the next time you feel the urge to share your deepest regret, ask yourself, am I seeking healing or attention? Because the truest healing doesn't always happen in the spotlight. Often, it happens in silence, where no one sees, but everything changes. 4. Medications. Guard the dignity of your health. Epictetus once said, "Don't explain your philosophy, embody it." And that includes how we carry our pain. There's a man named Jonah who walks the park every morning. Few know that he's a cancer survivor. Fewer still know he takes daily medication to keep his blood pressure in check. He doesn't hide it out of shame. He just chooses not to make it a public detail. To most, he's simply the man who smiles, says good morning, and moves with quiet strength. His identity is not tied to his condition. That's intentional. In life, health becomes a humbling teacher. By midlife, most of us carry something, a diagnosis, a daily pill, a past surgery. But Stoic wisdom reminds us that we are not our ailments. We are how we rise in spite of them. Revealing too much about our medications or health routines can shift how others see us. What was once respect can become concern. What was once admiration may turn into quiet pity. Suddenly, you're no longer the person with insight, humor, and clarity. You're the one who's going through something. And when that happens, people start to limit you without meaning to. They assume fragility. They offer unsolicited advice, recommend miracle teas, or warn you about things they barely understand. Their intent may be kind, but the outcome is noise, confusion, and a slow erosion of your peace. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." Just because something is real, like your health, doesn't mean it must be revealed to all. Not every truth is meant for public display. This isn't about hiding, it's about honoring what is private. Talk to your doctor. Confide in someone you trust. But don't feel obligated to carry your condition into every conversation. The more you guard your medical journey, the more control you keep over your story. You are not a diagnosis. You are not a prescription. You are a whole, living being, resilient, evolving, and deeply capable. Let the world see that. The rest belongs to you. 5. Age. The number doesn't define you. Seneca once said, "As long as you live, keep learning how to live." There's a woman named Lillian who walks into her art class every Tuesday, vibrant, sharp, and full of laughter. She's the best in the room, not because she's the youngest, but because she's the most curious. When someone asked her age, she smiled and replied, "Old enough to know better, young enough to keep showing up." And that's all she ever gave them. That's the Stoic way, not secrecy, but sovereignty. In many cultures, age is used as a measurement of relevance. Too young, you're dismissed. Too old, you're underestimated. Somewhere in between, you're just right, but only for a moment. The moment you reveal your age, people unconsciously place you in a category. They decide what you should be capable of, what you should care about, even how much future they believe you have left. But you are not a timestamp. You are a presence, a set of decisions, a body of work still in progress. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think." Life isn't promised to the young or the old. It belongs only to the present. When we obsess over how many years we've lived, or how many remain, we stop living altogether. We slip into roles others assign us based on a number, rather than choosing our path with clarity and courage. Keeping your age private isn't about denial, it's about focus. It's about reclaiming your identity from the assumptions of others. When people don't know your age, they can only judge what's in front of them, your words, your actions, your energy. And that's exactly how it should be. So instead of asking how old someone is, ask what they're building. Instead of telling people how many years you've seen, show them how deeply you live. If this speaks to you, drop a simple word in the comments. Timeless. And if you believe your age is yours to define, subscribe and join us as we continue exploring the quiet strength of Stoic living. 6. Sexuality. Protect what belongs to the heart. Epictetus once advised, "Keep your own secrets and do not tell everything to everyone. The soul must have a hidden place." There's a man named Samuel, a retired teacher who's been with his partner for over 30 years. You'll never hear him speak of their relationship in public, not because he's hiding it, but because it's sacred. He once said, "Some things aren't meant to be displayed, they're meant to be cherished." That is the heart of Stoic intimacy. In today's world, people share everything: milestones, private jokes, even their disagreements, for likes, for validation, for approval. But not every aspect of your life is meant for public consumption, especially when it comes to intimacy. Sexuality is more than physical. It's emotional depth, shared trust, and silent understanding. And contrary to cultural noise, it doesn't expire with youth. In fact, for many, it becomes richer over time, deepened by patience, mutual respect, and shared experience. But the more you expose it to the eyes and opinions of others, the more you risk turning something meaningful into something mundane. When you speak too freely about your romantic life, details, conflicts, private memories, you invite the world into a space it doesn't belong. And what once felt intimate can quickly begin to feel fragile. People misunderstand, they project, they judge what they don't fully see. Seneca once wrote, "It is more civilized to make fun of life than to bewail it," but he also believed that what is noble should remain guarded. Joy, especially in love, isn't something to be flaunted. It's something to be protected. Quietly, firmly, and intentionally. Keeping your intimate life private is not repression, it's respect. It means valuing the bond over the broadcast. It means choosing presence over performance. Let the strength of your connection speak through your peace, not your posts. Let the depth of your love be something only you and your partner truly understand. 7. Honor. Let your life speak louder than your words. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be one." There's a story about a man named Thomas, a retired firefighter who never once mentioned his decades of service. He saved lives, led teams, mentored young recruits, but never brought it up, not even when people praised others in his presence. When asked why, he simply said, "If I have to explain what I've done, I haven't done enough." That's the Stoic understanding of honor, not something to be performed, but something to be lived. In a time when the loudest voice often draws the most attention, there's pressure to display your achievements, to share your resume with the world. But the Stoics remind us, the more you advertise your greatness, the less convincing it becomes. Seneca once warned, "The approval of the crowd is a poor standard." When your value depends on recognition, it no longer belongs to you, it belongs to the opinions of others. True honor is quiet. It doesn't seek applause. It doesn't demand to be noticed. It rests in how you carry yourself when no one is watching, how you treat those with nothing to offer, how you endure difficulty without complaint, and how you stay grounded when success arrives. And paradoxically, the more you feel the need to tell others how much you've done, the more you diminish the dignity of your work. It invites comparison, envy, even skepticism. But when you move with quiet consistency, others feel your presence without needing to be told why. Protecting your reputation means letting your actions, not your words, define you. It means resisting the temptation to prove and instead choosing to embody. You don't need to announce your worth. You just need to live it. So if you've walked through life with integrity, keep walking. The world may never clap, but your character will echo louder than any praise. If that resonates with you, drop a word in the comments. 8. Charity. Let your kindness speak only to the soul. Epictetus once said, "When you give, let it be without a sound. Let the act be its own reward." There's a man named Victor who lives in a small town. Every winter, families in need receive envelopes under their doors. No name, no note, just enough cash to get them through the month. People speculate, but no one knows who it is. What they do know is this: Someone out there gives without ever needing to be seen, and that, in itself, has become a legend. That is the power of silent charity. In a world where generosity is often broadcast for likes and headlines, the Stoic asks a simple question: who are you helping, yourself or the person in need? Because the moment your gift becomes about being seen, it ceases to be a gift and starts becoming a transaction. You're not giving, you're marketing. Seneca cautioned that he who gives expecting thanks has already been paid. The deepest kindness asks for nothing. No spotlight, no recognition, no applause. Quiet charity is not just humble, it's also respectful. When you give publicly, you may unintentionally expose those you're trying to support. Their struggle becomes a story. Their dignity becomes vulnerable to judgment. But when you give in silence, you protect more than their needs. You protect their pride. It's also about your own discipline. Anyone can donate. But to give without telling, to help without seeking credit, to lift others and never mention it, that takes strength. That is a virtue shaped by character, not ego. You don't need to post a receipt to prove your heart. Let your generosity live in the shadows where it belongs. Let the ripple of your actions move outward quietly, touching lives without ever needing your name attached. The Stoic path is clear. Do good, but never trade it for attention. Give, not because it's visible, but because it's right. So ask yourself, is your kindness meant to be seen or to be felt? Let the answer guide your hand. And if this reminder speaks to something in you, live it, carry it, and trust that the quietest gifts are often the ones that last longest. 9. Future plans. Protect the fire before it's ready to burn. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The fruit of this life is good character and acts for the common good." But fruit doesn't appear overnight. It grows in silence, away from the noise, away from the crowd. There's a man named Lewis who, after retiring from corporate life, quietly started taking long walks through his neighborhood every morning. People assumed he was simply enjoying his free time. What they didn't know was that each walk was part of a plan to open a nature-based mentorship program for boys without fathers. He didn't speak of it, he built it. 3 years later, when it launched, it was already alive, real, whole, untouched by doubt. That's the Stoic approach to vision. Build first, talk later. Our future plans are often delicate in their early stages. Like sparks, they need protection, space to grow into flame before being exposed to the wind of opinion. The moment you share your intentions too soon, you invite noise, advice you didn't ask for, skepticism you didn't need, and comparisons that can twist your path into someone else's version of success. Not all discouragement is malicious. Sometimes people doubt your plan because they don't understand your purpose. But even well-meaning voices can steer you away from your internal compass. That's why Epictetus warned, if you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish. Keep your intentions close. Let them mature in silence. There's strength in building quietly, refining privately, and letting results speak when they're ready. Your dreams don't need defending. They need discipline. Every plan worth pursuing must pass through a season of solitude, a time when no one is watching, no one is clapping, and no one is questioning what you're doing. That's not a curse, it's a test. And the ones who endure it emerge with something real. So protect what you're building. Not out of fear, but out of reverence. The future belongs to those who are willing to work in silence. Then let the outcome speak for itself. Let your life reveal your direction, one quiet step at a time. 10. Insults. The burden you were never meant to carry. Seneca once wrote, "You should leave insults alone, not nurse them. If you stop feeding them, they die." There's a story of a blacksmith named Corin who once had his work ridiculed at a local market. A wealthy man laughed at the rough edges of a piece Corin had forged by hand. Corin said nothing. He simply nodded and went back to his forge. The next season, that same man returned, hoping to commission something custom because word had spread of Corin's craftsmanship and quiet discipline. Corin accepted the order, delivered the work, and never once brought up the insult. That silence carried more weight than any retaliation ever could. The Stoics believed that to be offended is a choice. You cannot stop others from speaking, but you can choose what you carry with you. Every time you repeat an insult in your mind, you give it breath. You grant power to the one who tried to wound you. And in doing so, you bind yourself, not to the moment, but to the pain. Epictetus taught, when someone does you wrong, immediately consider what they thought was right. This doesn't mean we must excuse cruelty. It means we must recognize its source and choose not to carry it forward. Talking about every offense, venting every wound, might feel relieving in the short term, but often it keeps the pain fresh. The more we share it, the more real it becomes. Soon, we're not just recalling the insult, we're reliving it. There is dignity in restraint, not silence from weakness, but silence from strength. You don't need the world to validate your pain to move beyond it. You only need to decide that you're done carrying what was never yours to begin with. Let the insult go. Let the wound close. Not for them, but for your own peace. Because to live unbothered is not just stoic, it's powerful. As you move forward, remember this. Not everything deserves to be spoken, even among those closest to you. A Stoic doesn't hide the truth, but they protect it. They know that restraint is not a denial of connection, but a form of strength. What we choose to withhold often defines us more than what we choose to share. There's wisdom in silence, not because we fear judgment, but because we value clarity. And when we guard the most personal parts of our lives, our regrets, our dreams, our wounds, we reclaim authorship over our own story. Seneca once said, "He who is brave is free." Sometimes bravery looks like staying quiet in a world that overshares everything. You don't owe the world your every thought. You owe yourself your peace. Let your character be known through how you act, not how much you reveal. If this message speaks to something in you, take a moment, reflect. And if you'd like, leave a simple word in the comments, stillness or discipline. I read everyone. And if you believe in the quiet strength of Stoic living, consider subscribing. There's more to explore, more ways to grow in silence and live with intention. Until next time, stay grounded, stay inwardly strong. Let your silence speak.